So today, I want to adequately address the issue of overpriced real estate in Lagos. This particular topic has generated a lot of controversies, and people with little or no experience in real estate activities are beginning to give some misleading comments, opinions, and views that can affect your real estate decision. I want to address this as a concerned citizen and, of course, an active participant in the industry. I want to open your eyes to what could be the reasons and what you need to do as you invest in your next real estate investment. Welcome to today's episode of Property Matters. My name is Adesanya, and trust me, you certainly don't want to miss any part of this episode. See you after this short time out. Welcome back. So let's go to the main topic of today. Are some properties in Lagos truly overpriced? Realistically, yes, there are some properties that are overpriced. I've seen instances whereby some listings don't even reflect their actual worth, and basically I have tried as much as possible to call my attention of our investors to this. To now come to the conclusion that all properties in Lagos are overpriced is a subjective point of view, a misleading information that should not be taken seriously. Now, when we talk about the issue of overpriced real estate in Lagos, we need to understand that there are a lot of factors that contribute immensely to property pricing. If you have been following this channel very well, I have talked extensively on some of the reasons why Lagos properties are very expensive, and I've explained the factors that are responsible to some of this. So on today's episode, I'm also going to talk about how you can also identify a property that does not truly reflect its actual worth and, of course, its present value as stated by either the realtor or the developer. But let's talk about why we have overpriced real estate, or why listings in Lagos appears to be very expensive. Now let's talk about the major issues. What are the major issues? The first issue basically is government policies and regulations. We all are aware of the fact that Lagos state government have been actively involved in regulating the activities of real estate developers. Kudos to the government because of the fact that these regulations have helped to reduce sad circumstances or issues of building collapse. As at 2022, as at 2023, building collapse increased by 35% in Lagos, and the minimum casualty that was recorded is over 20%. When you look at the issue of building collapse in the mainland, probably when you look at the Oyingbo axis, when you look at the Ebute Meta axis, when you look at the Yaba axis, you will agree with me that a lot of people usually suffer issues of building collapse. And in tackling this building collapse, the Lagos state government decided to introduce some good regulatory policies that has helped to reduce building collapse. Now the basically thing is that, do we say our buildings that have collapsed? Yes, we've had reported cases of building collapse, but the tremendous progress that I have subsequently observed from this is that the actual rate of building collapse has reduced by 85%, unlike the way it used to be in time past. Now, one of the regulations that government has introduced is the area of getting a building plan approval for your structure, which is very important. Now, the cost of getting those building approval is not cheap. And before you agree to the fact that the property is overpriced, then you need to do your own due diligence and find out what government is charging for you to erect a bungalow, what government is charging as building plan approval if you want to erect an apartment. You need to understand what government is charging for you to erect duplexes in Lagos. Until you have done so, it is very, very wrong for you to come to this conclusion that all properties in Lagos are overpriced. That is number one. Also, on government regulations, I think we also need to look at some basic facts. One of the factors that has to do with what? The cost of landed properties in Lagos. Now, this particular individual said that it does not see a need of why properties in Banana Island are selling for 1.5 billion, why properties are selling for 500 million in Lekki Phase 1. But if you don't understand the costs or the reasons why landed properties are very, very expensive, then you need to go down to history lane and understand why landed properties are very, very expensive. Now, the present reality right now is that if you want to buy a government allocation land in Lagos, more importantly in the Ibeju Lekki axis, government is not selling in acres anymore. They are selling in hectares. And 1 hectare of a government allocated land in the Ibeju Lekki axis is above 150 million naira. So a developer that have spent 150 million to buy a government allocation land in Ibeju Lekki, a lot of people have been asking, why are they selling bungalows for 58 million? Why are they selling bungalows for 68 million? The truth basically is that what is being charged to buy this property directly from government is not cheap. So we need to understand some of the factors that are contributing to the cost of properties in Lagos before we arrive at a conclusion to say that every real estate developers or every developers are overpricing their properties. Because you see, if you don't do your investigation and your due diligence, you'll be misleading the public. And sometimes it is very important that you do your own findings and factor and of course unravel some of the factors that are responsible for that. That is not all. Now let us go to the cost of construction so that you can have an accurate understanding of why properties in Lagos are not cheap. Now we all understand that a lot of people want quality. A lot of people want long-lasting properties that can stand the test of time. But the reality is that this is the present cost of construction. Right now, if you want to buy a bag of cement right now, it's selling above 10,000. In some places, 10,500, depending on the cost of what's transportation. One ton of iron rod right now that used to sell far back in 2024, 2023, and 2022 for 450, 500 is presently now selling for 1.1, 1.2. In some places, it's 1.3 million. And that is also to not consider the cost of shipping most of these things to their site where they are needed. Look at a trip of sand right now. A trip of sand, as at the last time I purchased, was sold for 176,000. Now imagine what it will cost for you to sand fill. Last year, I wanted to sand fill a 300 square meters of land for a client that bought a property in Shongotedo, and I was told that to sand fill a 300 square meters as at last year was 9 million naira. Imagine what you will use to sand fill today. So you see, in as much as fact that inflation is not helping, okay, in as much as fact that government policy has already set Lagos on a standard. Now, basically, a lot of people complain that Lagos is very expensive. But from these policies, we can realize that Lagos is not meant for everybody. So it's either you can buy Lagos or you go to other states that can carry your budget. You just don't come online and start misleading people. That is not. So it is very possible for you to start a construction for 50 million, and before the construction is completed, you can sell above 150 million. And of course, that is obvious because see, there is no stability in the Lagos real estate market. And the reason for that stability is due to what? To inflation. Today, you can go to the market and buy something, and before evening, the prices will change. So until government parastatals and government policies begins to ensure stability of currency, stability of the exchange rate, stability of purchase, all these things will begin to do what? To increase. Let me also further inform you that most of 70% of some of these building materials are imported, and that is why it is very misleading for you to come to the conclusion that everybody is trying to siphon everything. Most of these things are imported. Now, you gave instances of South Africa, you gave instances of Dubai and some other places. My brother and my sister, they have a stable economy. They are not importing like Nigeria. Their cost of labor there is regulated. So a 5 million naira property may seem to look more because most of all these materials are there. Now you talk about that you don't see a reason why Banana Island is selling for 1 billion, 1.2 billion. Have you forgotten so soon that Banana Island is for the 1% of the 1%? If you don't know, let me remind you that top government officials own properties in Banana Island, and this is why Banana Island have maintained its exclusivity nature in purchase. There is nothing that will make Banana Island to sell less, because they believe that the moment Banana Island becomes very, very affordable, a lot of people will reduce the quality and of course the lifestyle, the security there. You also went further to say Banana Island land is not, the water is not blue, the water is not yellow, the water is not as clean as what we have in other countries like South Africa and the likes. My brother, let me also quickly remind you that most of the waters that we have in Banana Island are lagoon. So you need to understand basically that a lagoon and a seawater cannot have the same quality. So these are some of the important things you need to understand before you make a conclusion or you start accusing. Now, at the commencement of this video, I said that there are tendencies that some properties are overpriced. Now, how can you now identify overpriced property? Now, as a real estate investor, that was why I said in one of my videos that it is very important that you have a basic knowledge of the cost of construction. Like, how much does it take to do a pile foundation? How much does it take to do a raft foundation? What is a total estimate of what it takes to build a bungalow? Now, basically, if you have the knowledge of cost of construction, you can easily identify a situation where a property is being overpriced. You need to understand the present cost of tiles. You see, everything about construction in Lagos or in any part of the nation is related to the exchange rate. So until there is stability, until the regulation and policies are being put in a situation whereby real estate developer can have access to some of these things, you cannot conclude that every developers are trying to siphon. So these are some of the present circumstances that have increased or that have affected the pricing of properties in Lagos. And finally, the cost of construction is not cheap. Most of these real estate developers don't have access to funds. Most of these guys collect funds, loans, in forms of loans at an incredible or an unimaginable interest rate. Now, for the fact that these guys are even trying to stay in business or trying to construct is very, very applauding from my own point of view. So, before we agree that all properties in Lagos are overpriced, let us look at some of these underlying factors that have been mentioned. Let us call for price regulation. Let us look for how the economy can be stable. Now, if there is stability of economy, if there is stability of exchange rates, if there is stability of regulations, if accessing loans at an affordable rate is done, now I will join your campaign in fighting people or developers that are trying to do what? To siphon or sell overpriced real estate. But until that, or if government fails to play their own role, then we cannot blame all real estate developers. This is not a justification for those who are selling overpriced property. What I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to create a scenario for you to see that even in this industry, out of all eggs, certainly there will be bad eggs. But generalizing everything is one of those things that is very, very unfair. So until we're able to sort some of these things, then we should prepare and of course ensure that real estate investors get the best for their investments. Until I come your way in another exciting, educative, and of course enlightening episode of Property Matters, I hope you have found value. Of course, for any form of real estate investment, property verification, legal, of course, I'm not a lawyer, and every other thing relating to real estate, trust me, we are the best person to work with. See you in my next video. Bye for now.